Today's webinar is webinar 4 in the series. And for the content today, I'm going to be going through how parsers work and how you can automate data coming into CartonCloud. So just as a bit of background, I mean, one of the key things that we tried to address when we started building this application was the problem of how do you import other people's data into your transport or warehouse management system. So when we had a look around at existing applications, we sort of found that most of them had like an import file type that they could accept, but that would typically just be, say, one layout. So they might have a manifest file which they can import. However, you would require your clients to actually fill out the manifest or the sale order or the purchase order in exactly that format in order for it to be imported successfully. As a 3PL, it's actually really hard to control what data you get sent. If you're working with, say, 30 to 40 different transport or warehousing companies, like we were, the tricky part that you have is that trying to control the data that they send you, you can't really do it. If you go to them and say, hey guys, can you all please fill out a spreadsheet in this way so that we can import it into our system, most of them will just say, oh, no, we actually can't do that. You're going to have to manually key everything in. And so as a result, as the company that's actually doing the work, you end up with a whole lot of data entry people sitting in the office, keying data in to your warehouse or transport management system. And that's a really big problem. So this webinar today is all about how to configure CartonCloud to import data automatically. Out of the box, it can accept some file formats which we feel cover off quite a few different cases. However, in addition to that, you can always send us particular files that you'd like us to build parsers for, and then we can actually build something which can read those files. So if you have a client who's sending you sales orders in a format that's coming directly out of their system, let's say it's SAP, in most cases, we can actually automate that import so that you can get all the way to them just emailing the file to CartonCloud and having it read everything in. Okay, so that's a bit of background. I'm just going to jump across really quickly to the help site. So I'm going to click on this little link here, and that'll bring up the help page. If you go onto the help site and you search for parsers, then there's this link here, list of parsers, and that actually brings up a list of all the different parsers that we have in the system currently out of the box that you can just download the templates for and use. So if you jump in here and let's say that you want to use a sale order parser, then there's a couple of different options. We have one which is an Excel file that you can send in or upload, and we also have one that's a CSV file. I'm just going to show you quickly the different examples that we have. So I'm just going to download this Excel file and give you a bit of a rundown of how it looks. 1 second while I transfer the screen over to Excel. Just move that to here. Okay, so that sheet that I just downloaded is this Excel sheet here. This was a template that we came up with when we were at Roving because it basically covered off what most of our clients were trying to do. You would use this template if you're wanting to import a single order at a time. So it starts out with things like the date, then the reference number. So this would be the order reference. There's a few other options in here, like do you want to allow partial shipping? So should the order, allow it to only send out some of the goods rather than the whole thing at once? Coming down, you've got the delivery address. So you'd put in the person's name, their street address, suburb, postcode, etc. And then coming down into the product information, obviously you need to tell the system things like which products you want sent out with a particular sale order. And you can go as far as specifying things like a particular expiry date or a particular batch number or lot number that you want sent out in an order. And some clients, they really need that. They have strict order shipping rules where they need to ship specific batch numbers to specific clients. And so this actually allows them to select the batch number or the lot number that they want to send on a particular order. And the way that the system is set up is that if there's not enough stock available of that particular batch, then it will actually send them back a rejection email and let them know. Just coming back to the Chrome again, the list of parsers. The one that I'm actually going to use today for this demonstration of importing some sale orders is the CSV template. So I've got the example here. I'll download this and I'll just open it up. I'm just jumping back to my Excel again. Okay, so this is very similar. The difference here is that it's a layout designed for multiple orders to be imported at a single time. It also has less fields available in it. We've restricted it right down just to the bare minimums that people started to need as we were sort of going along with roving. So this example here, just a straight CSV file. We've got things like the customer reference, and the way that this is set up is that if you're sending an order with multiple products, you simply enter in the same reference for every line, which is for that one order. So this particular example has two different orders going into it. It's got one invoice 0113 and another invoice 0114. One of them's going to Hungry Jack's Burley West and the other to Tugan. Over on the right-hand side here, we specify the different products which are to be sent on the order. So back in the second webinar, when we were first dealing with the warehouse management system, I created a couple of example products. I created a product which I called Atlantic Salmon, and I created another one which I called Seafood Marinara. Now, these two orders, one of them contains two products. It contains 2 cartons of the Atlantic Salmon. The other one contains 3 units of the Seafood Marinara. And then the last order is just simply a single carton of that Atlantic Salmon. Now, when you're dealing with products that have different units of measure, you can actually specify the different units of measure field out here. So, for example, I know that the Seafood Marinara product is measured in both units and cartons. I created it with a conversion whereby 10 units makes up a single carton. So if I wanted to, I could actually specify the quantity here in terms of cartons as well. One advanced feature that not a lot of people know about, which I'll just briefly touch on, is that if your product codes for your different units of measure are different from one another. So what this means is that you have one code, let's say SF-MAR1, which is for a single unit of the Seafood Marinara. And then you also have another product code, which might be SF-MAR10, which is for a single carton of the Seafood Marinara. Then you can actually put those unit of measure codes in here if you want to. So if I did this right now, when I import this, it would actually go straight to selecting one carton. But for this example, I'm just going to drop it back to having just 3 units of the 1 kilo and save that. And I'll just show you briefly what I mean by going back into Chrome. So if I jump back to the actual CartonCloud system here and go into the list of products, I've got all my list of products here. I've got my Seafood Marinara 1 kilogram product here with that code SFMAR1. But when I go in here, you can see that I've actually got these 2 different codes for the 2 different units of measure. This is an advanced function, but it's something that comes up quite often where you might have a client who has a sales system whereby sometimes they want you to pick a single bag of the product. And so they want to send you, sorry, I've actually got this name around the wrong way. I apologize about that. But where they might want you to say, send out 1 bag of the product. And so they would specify the product code as SFMAR1. In another case, they want you to send out a whole carton, which is 10 bags. And so they specify SFMAR10. The system can actually handle that straight out of the box. Depending on what code they put into that file that gets imported, it will jump between those 2 different unit sizes and pick automatically. So you can do either. You can either specify different codes, or you can use the unit of measure column in the file to specify the quantity in units or cartons. So it's pretty adaptable to all of that kind of thing. Okay. Now, one of the things that I need to do is I actually need to connect the CSV parser to the customer salmon distributors. And I'm just going to explain a little bit more about what that means. You can do this in your own account. You can jump into the section called Parsers, and you can see in here that we've got a whole lot of parsers in the system which are predefined. Now, by default, we've actually only activated these for clients automatically. What I mean by that is, to make it less confusing for people, by default, we've only connected up the Excel sheet sale order parser to new customers that you create within CartonCloud. The CSV sale order parser, although it exists in there, it hasn't actually been linked with the customer, meaning if you choose Salmon Distributors, or if I choose Salmon Distributors right now, I won't actually be able to select that CSV sale order parser because I haven't connected the two together. So I'm just going to go in and show you the process of how you link those up, because this is one of the things that will come up straight away if you try and use, say, the CSV file rather than the Excel sheet file. If I go into my customers, go to all, go to the company, Salmon Distributors. Down here under this edit button, this brings up all the different customer options across the whole system. And if I jump into Parser, I can see in here, sorry, just before this demo, I actually linked this. So I'm just going to remove that just to show you what it would look like normally. But in here, I've got all of the default parsers which get attached to all new customers that you create within the system. So I've got the Excel purchase order parser, I've got the Excel sale order parser, I've got one for importing manifests and consignments, and also one for importing products. Now I want to use this CSV parser, which is available, but I haven't connected it to this client. So if I go right now and try and upload a file, so I click up here and click parser file, I choose Salmon Distributors, the only options I've got are those ones that I was just showing you. I can't actually select to import the CSV file. So by going back to where I was, back on that customer page, click this button here, add parser to customer. I can just simply connect the CSV sale order parser to the Salmon Distributors company. And now under the parsers, I've got all 5 of those options. If you want to make it easier for your customers, is that we normally recommend, if they have a particular template that they want to use, or you've created a custom parser for that customer, we normally recommend removing the default parsers from their account. Otherwise, it becomes a bit confusing when you click in to upload a file and you've got multiple options for importing sale orders. It can be a bit tricky because you don't actually know which one to choose from, or you may not know which one to choose from. If I click delete here, this will unlink the Excel sale order parser from this company. It won't delete the parser, it will just remove the link between the two. So it's basically saying, do I want to delete the link? So I'm going to click delete. Yep, take that out. Now under my parsers, I've just got the 4 that I actually am going to use. So jumping back into uploading a file, I can click into here, click parser file, choose my customer, Salmon Distributors, choose that I want to import a CSV sale order. And then I can put my file in here. So I've got this open just in another window. I'm just going to drop this file into that window there. There we go. Down here, you can specify whether or not you want to send an email to the client when this file gets imported manually. This is pretty useful if, say, they've sent you something and you're fixing it up for them, and when it goes in, you actually want to send them the response of what went in. In this case, I'm just going to say I don't want to send anything because I just want to have a look at the results that actually come up on the screen. And I'm going to click upload. Now this is trying to load that file in, and it's just finished processing it. And what I can see here is the results of how that went. So if the order was imported successfully, or if it failed to be imported for some reason, that information is provided here. So just looking at this, I can see, okay, the first order was successfully imported. However, it contains one warning. So it shows me in this section here that these are the products which it put onto the order. It successfully found 3 cartons of the Atlantic salmon and 3 units of the seafood marinara. However, it's warning me that for this product here, the Atlantic salmon 20 kilogram, I'd already reached the warning threshold on the expiry date for this particular product. So if you remember back to webinar 2, when we constructed the products, I created quite high number of days as a warning on the Atlantic salmon, because I think I created it as a frozen product. And I said, I want to know if it's within, it might have been a month or something like that of expiring. Because this product is expiring within the warning number of days from now, it's just alerting me that I've selected this, but it has come within this warning threshold. So this is the information that would actually be sent back to your customer. So Salmon Distributors would receive an email advising them that this had occurred, and what the results were from each of these different orders that got imported. Scrolling down, I can see the result of the second order. So again, it imported successfully. However, it's got the same warning that that product is going to expire actually at the end of this month. So it's quite close to expiration. Okay, that's cool. So those orders now, since I've just imported those, they're actually available straight away here under the sale order screen. So I can see them as awaiting pick and pack. I've got the order to Hungry Jack's Burley West and also the order to Hungry Jack's Tugun. So that all worked really good. I'm just going to delete these out again, and I'm just going to run through connecting the client's email address, so Salmon Distributor's email address, into the system so that you can see how to make sure that they get a response from CartonCloud advising them what happened. So I'm going to click delete, remove these orders. Okay. So those orders are now gone. What I've done just before this demo started was I actually created a couple of email addresses. I created one called iceroadtruckers@gmail.com, and I created one called salmondistributors@gmail.com. So I've set these up so that I can pretend I've got an email address where I am Salmon Distributors and I'm sending in emails, or I'm receiving emails from Ice Road Truckers, and also so that you can see an example of how Ice Road Truckers would receive emails as the actual company using CartonCloud. So jumping back into the actual system, if I go into my Salmon Distributors customer, right now, they don't have any email addresses connected. So I can see this by going to edit and going to email. And in here, they've got absolutely nothing loaded. So I'm going to create an email address, salmon.distributors.cc@gmail.com. That's the email address I just created in Gmail for the purposes of showing you how it works. So I'll add that email address. On this next screen, it asks me for the name of the person with the email. So I'm just going to say it's just Salmon Distributors. And down here, I can select which type of notifications I want salmondistributors@gmail.com to receive. So I want them to get all sale order notifications. I want them to get purchase order notifications. I want them to get stock notifications. That's actually enough. One thing you can do here is that if you only ever want to send them notifications which occur when an order was successfully imported, as opposed to notifications when it failed to be imported, you can turn off the regular sale order notifications and just turn on sale order successfully imported, and then they'll get those. The other things that sale order notifications and purchase order notifications provide are when the order is packed, or when the order is dispatched, or when the purchase order is received and when it's verified. That will trigger a notification to be sent to this email address. So it makes it really easy. It's basically saying, do you want to notify them of everything that occurs with a sales order or purchase order? And I do. Down under here, and I'm going to set this up now and we'll use it a bit later on, is that I can actually specify where, who can send orders into CartonCloud. So in this example, I want Salmon Distributors to be able to email from their Gmail account into CartonCloud and have it automatically read their orders and load them in. So I'm going to tick that I want them to be able to send sales orders in, and click Save. So in one step, I've linked up this particular email address, Salmon Distributors, to receive all these different types of notifications and also to be able to send in emails that contain those sales orders. So just jumping back, I'm going to upload that file again. So Salmon Distributors, CSV sale order parser, load in my file. Down here, I'm going to say, should I send an import email? And I'm going to say, yep, I want to use the customer configuration to determine. So if they would normally be sent an email, I want to send them an email. Upload that. Now what this will do is it will do the same process as before. It will successfully import the orders with some warnings, and it will also fire off an email to Salmon Distributors telling them that these orders were successfully imported. So we'll let that run through. Cool, I've got the same screen here. If I go across to this Gmail box, with a bit of luck, okay, I've got my first email. So this one here's come through saying the sale order has been successfully processed with some warnings. I'm just going to hide the stuff that Gmail's showing me. So I can see here, it's the same content that's showed in that email as to what's shown here. So I've got that one. I should also have another email about invoice 1113. Sometimes you have issues with the new Gmail accounts kind of treating things as spam. I think that's what's happened here. That email is actually here. I've got the other one about invoice 1113 as well. So that's really cool. So basically, as you're importing this stuff, your clients are getting notified completely automatically to say, hey, this is what's gone on. This order has been processed successfully. If I now try and upload the same file again, and this often happens, people send in the same orders multiple times, or you forget which orders you've already loaded in and you try again. If I try and load this in, and click, yep, I want to send an email, all good, load that in. What this will do is it will actually tell me that it can't process these orders because it's seen them, they're already in the system. So straight away it's saying, hey, you've got a problem here. Order 0113 already exists. We don't accept duplicate orders. Order 114 also exists. We don't accept duplicate orders. And these emails have been sent through to salmon distributors as well. So they've got an email saying that 113 was rejected and so was 114. So that's just to prevent duplicate orders coming into the system. Oh, you sure? I've just been told that my audio's cut out. Is anyone having that problem? If maybe someone can just send a chat message. Okay, I've just been told it's come back. So apologize about that if there was an issue there. All right, so those notifications are all working really cool. Now at the same time, are you sure it's not at your end? Okay. Just 1 second, guys. Sorry about this. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm just going to carry on. If people can't hear me, can you just send a message in that chat window? I'm sorry if you are seeing problems. All right. I've also connected up the company Ice Road Truckers to receive a copy of all emails which are being sent out to my customers. Now, that's a really good thing to turn on when you're first getting CartonCloud up and running, because it can be quite difficult when you're first getting started to tell what it is that you're sending to customers and what notifications they're actually seeing. So I've just jumped across here in Gmail to another email account that I created for Ice Road Truckers. So I'm just pretending that this is an Ice Road Truckers own email address, and I'm receiving copies of all of those emails. The way that I did that was that in the system, and I showed this in webinar 1, under organization settings, in the email settings here, I've said that when an email address is sent to a customer, I want to forward a copy of all emails across to this email address as well. So basically, whenever I'm sending out an email address to a customer, also send a copy of it to iceroadtruckerscc@gmail.com. So I've turned that on. And I highly recommend doing that when you're first getting started with the system. The other one that I really recommend turning on as well is this. So what I'm going to go on to now is how you can have the orders imported via email. So rather than having to log into the system, you can just fire an email off the CartonCloud and those orders will be read and imported. What I've connected up here is that when an email gets sent into CartonCloud, your clients might not also send it to you. They might not also send it to Ice Road Truckers. And so as a result, let's say that CartonCloud processes it, well, no one at Ice Road Truckers might know, or they might want a copy of all emails to be sent to them as well. So what I've done here is I've actually said, I want every email address coming into the system to also be forwarded to Ice Road Truckers. So that means when they send it and CartonCloud receives it, it forwards it on as well. Carrying on, what I'm going to do now is go through the process of emailing in the file. The first thing I actually have to do is I have to connect up an email address that CartonCloud can receive mail when it's sent to. So I'll show you how this works. I'm going to go into the Parsers screen again. So click on Parsers, go into all, and I'm actually going to go into my CSV sale order parser, and I'm going to click edit over here, and I'm going to configure the email address that I want this to receive emails at. So click edit. Down under this section here, parser to email address, what you need to do in here is specify an email address which is in the following format. So I'll write it down and then I'll explain the parts. I'm going to make it sale orders plus ice road truckers at in.cartoncloud.com.au. Okay. So I know this looks a bit confusing, but I'll explain the bits and then you'll understand exactly what it means. This part here, plus ice road truckers at in, CartonCloud uses this part between the plus and the at symbol to determine which account it's supposed to load the email into or which account it's supposed to look into. This section is exactly the same as this up here. So if you ever don't know what it is, just look at your URL and it's the part straight after app.cartoncloud.com.au. It's that ice_road_truckers part. It is case sensitive, so make sure that when you load it into here, you put it in exactly the same format that you copy it out of this thing above. Now, every email that you send to CartonCloud, unless you want us to do some configuration where you receive it, where CartonCloud can say receive emails from, just going to sale orders at ice road truckers. By default, every email has to be sent to this address here, this at in.cartoncloud.com.au. It's really important that you tell people to send it to this in part. Otherwise, it just goes straight to our support people here. It doesn't actually go to the system. Now, at the start, before the plus, you can put in whatever you want. So I could just make this orders, but that becomes a little bit confusing because when I send these email addresses out to people and tell them, hey, please send your sale orders to this address, I need to give them one address to send sale orders to, and I need to give them one address to send purchase orders to. If I don't do that, then when they send both purchase orders and sale orders to the same email address, CartonCloud isn't going to actually know which type of file it's trying to read, and that's going to run into some issues. So I'm going to make this sale_orders, so it's really clear. And I might create another email address for purchase orders, which is purchase_orders plus ice road truckers at in.cartoncloud. So I just do that, run down the bottom. Oh, sorry, the save button is actually just up here in this top left corner, so I can click save. Cool, so I've now connected up this email address. Earlier, when we were setting up the email address within Salmon Distributors, I actually connected the email address salmondistributors@gmail.com to be allowed to email orders into this parser. I'll just go back and go through that process again because it can be a little bit confusing. So if I go to edit here and go to email, if you remember when I was on the screen entering in this new person's email address, I actually ticked this little box here to say that I want them to be able to use the CSV sale order parser. What I've done here is I've basically said that if an email comes from this address, if that's the sender, and it comes into CartonCloud and it's going to this address, then the file should be read using the CSV sale order parser, and it should be loaded in to the Salmon Distributors account. So that's how CartonCloud links all these different things together. So let's go through and test that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into my email box and I'm going to send a new email. I'm sending from the Salmon Distributors account, and I'm going to send it to that email address I just created. So to make sure I don't get it wrong, I'm just going to copy and paste it out of here, straight into there. So I'm going to say, I don't know, new orders Tuesday. Please see the following orders. And in here, I'm going to attach my sale order CSV template, that's exactly the same file that I uploaded earlier through the web interface. Just before I click send, I'm going to just jump back to CartonCloud and actually delete those orders because otherwise it's just going to reject them and tell me that they were repeats. So I'm going to go back here and delete those out. Get rid of them from the system. Cool. Come back to my Gmail box and send this in. So again, I'm sending to that email address. I'm sending it from the salmondistributors.cc@gmail. So I'm going to go send. Cool. Now, this process of reading in the emails can take a couple of minutes. So I'll show you how you can tell that an email's come into the system. Under this more section here, there's a little button called Email Parsing Log. If you click on this, this actually gives you a list of everything which is coming in. Now, it hasn't registered that anything's come in yet. Again, it can take a couple of minutes. But what's really cool about this email parsing log is that you can actually see the process of any emails coming in. So if someone sends an email to the system and it failed to be imported for some reason, like they sent the wrong file, or they sent it from an email address that you haven't configured, that information is all available within here. So we'll click go again. It's just taking a little bit. And that will show you, this file couldn't be imported because we don't know who the sender is, or this file was successfully imported and we successfully linked it to the salmon distributor's account and we processed it using the sale order parser. So I'll click go. Just make sure I think I put that in correctly. Sale orders plus ice road truckers at in.cartoncloud.com.au. Yep, that's correct. Sometimes a minute can feel like a long time when you're waiting. So we'll carry on with the next part just while we're waiting for that to come through. Give this one more go. Still nothing. Okay. Haven't received anything new here either. That's fine. All right, cool. One other thing that is a good thing to set up when you're first getting started is that we actually have, you can define an email address for your company whereby you want to receive a copy, like an email, every single time an order is successfully imported. This is actually, it's a setting above all of the customer settings, and it's actually under a screen called notification settings. Now you can find this if you go to more and then click on sitemap. If I come down to, I think it's down here a little bit under organization settings, there's a screen here called notification settings. What I've done in here is I've actually added ice road truckers to be automatically sent an email every single time there's an order successfully imported, for both sale orders and purchase orders. Now this is really cool because once you've got the system up and running and you're using it every day, chances are you want to turn off getting sent a copy of all customer emails, because it just becomes a ton of emails. If you start to get a copy of every single POD that CartonCloud's sending, you'll get swamped. So after that, you really just want to start to cut down the emails that you're receiving to just those which are important. And generally, getting notified when a new sale order drops into the system or when a new purchase order gets dropped into the system, those are the two important ones. So you can turn that on in here. Under notification settings, you just click add email address, you put in the name and email address, and then it simply brings you into this screen where you can specify exactly which emails you'd like to receive. So if you've got a sale order successfully imported, purchase order successfully imported, which type of consignment errors you'd want to be notified about. So let's say that a driver has just lodged an error out in the field to say that he's got damaged stock, then you can actually set that up to notify you via email immediately when that occurs, rather than having to constantly check CartonCloud and see things in there. So this is a pretty useful feature just for getting live updates on things. It's coming back into here. Okay, cool. So this got processed at 10:31. It basically received the email. I can see here that it came from Salmon Distributors. It went to Sale Orders Ice Road Truckers at in.cartoncloud. If I click on this, it gives me a bit of information. Some of it looks a bit cryptic, but if you're running into email challenges, we often use this information to diagnose exactly what's going on. So some of the key parts here is that it managed to figure out that it should use the CSV sale order parser. And then when it actually processed it, it's saying down here that it created sale order ID 10 and also sale order ID 11 from that file. And I can tell from this little green tick box over here that that it successfully read in the email and found a match and read the contents and did something with it. So if I jump back now to the sale orders, those same orders as before have appeared because they've just come in through a different way. Rather than coming in through manual upload, they've come in through the email address. Because I've got those notifications set up as Ice Road Truckers, I've received an email telling me that a new order has come into the system and that it got processed with warnings. Salmon Distributors, the company, they've also received an email telling them that this email that they sent has been successfully processed. If I was Salmon Distributors and I went and sent the same email again, I'd get back the same email that we saw earlier, where it's basically telling me, hey, your order got rejected because it's a duplicate. So regardless of how the orders come in via email or via file upload, the notifications are exactly the same. It's also the same if you're dealing with FTP, which is not something that we're going to cover off today, but it's commonly used where people want to transfer files into CartonCloud using FTP, which is File Transfer Protocol. Those files get transferred in, we process them using a parser, and then we send back an email to advise what happened. So the process is no different there. Okay, that's really cool. So with all that connected, again, you can do the same things with manifests, are a really big thing. Majority of our clients that are doing transport work would have their transport operations automated to some degree, where the system is receiving emails with consignments inside them. It's importing those consignments and constructing manifests as a result. You can do exactly the same process with purchase orders. So if you download the purchase order template from here, fill it out, you can go through the same steps where you connect the purchase order parser to the customer, set up the email address, and then start emailing files in, and they'll all import.